Very good. Thank you, sir. Good evening. It is a joy to be able to be with you today, and to have been with the staff earlier this afternoon was a treat. We do professional development, K through 2, 3 through 5, 6 through 8, 9 through 12, parent presentations, a variety of other different resources to be able to serve. And so you guys are getting the full package, and so I'm just so glad to be able to serve you all. And again, thank you for your generosity of being able to bring me out here. Yes, I am a grandfather. I'll show you the family photo in just a little bit, but God has worked a unique story in our family's life. And as we walk into presentations like this, we need to realize that the goal of a lot of the technology where your kids spend a lot of time is different than yours. When we have watched interviews and even had conversations ourselves with those who are leading companies, whether it's the founder of Snapchat, we've had meetings with them, it's executives at Google and Apple and others. When we have these conversations, and even in other interviews that we're not even a part of, we see regularly and hear regularly that the goal is consumption. Sean Parker, the founding president of Facebook, said that their goal is to consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible. And so he said that he would give you just a little dopamine hit when somebody liked or commented on a post, which would cause you to post more to get more likes and comments. Calls it a social validation feedback loop. So this isn't accidental, this is intentional. And he, even in that interview he did with Axios, said that it's something that a hacker like myself would come up with, finding a vulnerability in human psychology. And so it's interesting when we look at this, we are where we are on purpose. Now, we may not have intentionally gotten us here, but there were people that were intentionally trying to get us to this place. And that's not to mean we're not an anti-tech organization, but we are a pro-tech organization, but more of a slow-tech organization. Right kid, right tech at the right time. And so we're going to talk this evening about a variety of things. And as parents, many times we can almost find ourselves leading with, well, when I was a kid, conversations with our children. And we can all remember how well those went when we were kids and our parents said the same things to us. But our world was much more physical, much more analog. It was much more face-to-face. And to have a world where we grew up with the soccer ball on our feet, and our sons and daughters, they have no idea what to do with the physical ball, but man, they can bend it like Beckham on FIFA. Or whatever the case may be, they have these abilities to be able to do these things, and so they're growing up in a much more digitized world than we were. The accessibility to things is so much more prevalent. To find the ugly on the internet is really easy. To find the ugly in the physical world, you had to go looking for it. Then you tried to hide it so other people didn't find it and take it away. And so we want to talk this evening about a variety of different topics. And we as parents may feel as though the world is burning down around us. We're trying to convince ourselves that it's okay. How many of you feel that way when it comes to the digital life of your kids or your grandkids, that you kind of just feel out of sorts, things are crumbling around, and you're just trying to survive? This is true for us as well. At Protect Young Eyes, again, how many of you before tonight had ever heard of the organization? I know there's at least one, so a handful of you, which is totally okay. I'm so glad that we're able to be here this evening. And yes, to let you know a little bit more about who we are and the resources that you've been missing out on for the last 7 years, but also to come alongside you and say, hey, it's not too hard to catch up leaps and bounds beyond where you currently are when you walked into this room when it comes to the digital well-being in your home. And so as an organization, we are about a movement of balanced families that protect without panic, train without fear, and guide with grace and grit. This is not a siren call to we all need to go out and burn all the technology in the parking lot after the presentation tonight. Now, some of you may feel that way, and I understand that. But that's not what we're wanting to do. We're wanting to say we live in a digital world. What is the right tech for our kids at the right time? How do we parent in this digital age? And how can we make these digital landscapes more safe for those entrusted to our care? We want you to then raise tech-wise, morally grounded, and resilient kids in a wild, wild connected world. Dietrich Bonhoeffer said that the test of the morality of a society is what it does for its children. And when I look at the digital landscape, it's clear to me that the morality has lost its way in our culture and our society. When we see children as income sources for multi-billion, even trillion-dollar companies, we've lost our way. And so we come alongside, we say, yes, we want to be able to serve, we want to do these things, but the way that our culture and our society has really targeted our children in ways that many of us don't even realize, because all we've done is handed them a device, and if something goes bad, we'll probably find out about it maybe. And so we're not thinking of the digital consequences of some of these children. Anybody either heard of or read The Anxious Generation? Okay, if you've not heard or read, I would highly recommend at least you get the audiobook and listen to it. It's well worth the read, if not for just the 80 pages of reference notes at the end of it. This is not just a kind of an op-ed piece of just an opinion of one man. This is a highly researched book, a couple hundred pages in length, really, really, really helpful. John has become a very good friend of ours at Protect Young Eyes, and so I love being able to say, yes, please read this book. As a team at Protect Young Eyes, all of us, it's required reading for us to keep up with good literature on this. And what his goal here is to kind of create an awareness of parents of this anxious generation. Some statistics and other things in this presentation come directly from the work that John has done. And if you don't know what John looks like, he looks a lot like this guy right here. All right, this is John. And if you don't know what Chris McKenna, the founder of Protect Young Eyes, looks like, he looks a lot like this, just without a green spot on his face. This is John and Chris, both at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland this last February. We've been invited guests each of the last 2 or 3 years. And in this photo on the right, this is Tristan Harris. He's a former Google product developer. He started the Center for Humane Technology. And others around this table are both in the advocacy space, in the general public, in the public service side of it in both the U.S. and the U.K. Some here are anthropology professors, a variety of other different people that are in this space wanting to advocate. And why be at the World Economic Forum? Because we want to remind people of the unintended consequences of advancement. Yes, we want to see growth. We want to see new technologies come available. All of these things are fantastic. But to remember in the midst of all of this is going to be a wake in its path. And sometimes that wake includes millions of children. And so we want there to be just an awareness there. And so in his book, John wrote this: we've overprotected children in the real world where they need a lot of free play and autonomy, while underprotecting them online where they're not ready for much of what happens to them. And that would be true of us as well. Many of us, the first porn or the first things that we saw in that kind of arena wasn't in a magazine. It may have been on a device, and it may have been on a computer in the living room in our own homes. And so to realize that when we give our kids a smart device without thinking through the other uses of it, we're setting ourselves and our kids up to be really in a space they're really not ready for. And so we'll talk about some of those age and stages things throughout the presentation to kind of give you an idea of where we think is appropriate for kids, recognizing that you are the chief experts of your children. So I'm going to give stuff that I've learned, but you are also the experts of your children as well. This is my family. The top right corner is my son-in-law, Marquel. He married my daughter, Cheyenne. Next week, it'll be 5 years that they've been married. And they have 2 sons. The older one is sitting on my wife, Rosa's lap, and the younger one sitting on my lap. This photo's a year and a half old, but we live all over the country now, and so for us to get everybody together is difficult. And my daughter, Cheyenne, is pregnant with her first daughter to be born next month, and so we're quite excited to finally have a granddaughter in our world. But they live, Marquel and Cheyenne and their boys live in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where we're from. The top left corner is my son Ryan and his wife Lucy. They live in Elkhart, Indiana. Cheyenne and Ryan are biologically cousins. They were raised by Ryan's mom, and sadly, when they were 12 and 9, Karen passed away at the age of 37. And Rose and I went from youth pastor and wife to mom and dad in a matter of 6 days. It was a whirlwind. It was a lot of learning. I knew Cheyenne. She had been in our youth group for a year. She just finished 6th grade. But I really didn't know Ryan all that much at all. And I don't know if you've noticed, our skin and hair textures and colors are different. We had a lot of learning to do. I learned that I'm actually ashy all the time. It just doesn't show up on my skin. And all the creams and lotions, all the other different things there, but then also walking along with kids who had just buried their primary caretaker and going through all of that, and just a variety of different things that we as a family had to come together really quickly. And that was 15 years ago. And they are now almost 28 and 24 years old, married, have children, have already purchased their first homes. God has launched them in such amazing, amazing ways. So they're in Michigan and Indiana. My wife, Rose, and I, we grew up together. My mother-in-law changed my diapers in the church nursery. So there's like zero secrets with the in-laws at all. And she couldn't date till she was 16. I took her out on her 16th birthday, and 4 years later, we were married, and we've been married now for 22 years. And so it's we have now a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and both Rose, JD, and Silas were on campus here for just amount of time to go to the restroom this afternoon before we went back to the hotel so I could get into my evening presentation clothes and come back here. And so they get to travel with us. We homeschool JD and Silas for the benefit of every now and then them jumping on the road with Dad and going on a business trip. And so we drove up from Venice, Florida, where we currently now live, yesterday, and we'll be traveling back on Saturday because I'm also a full-time minister and I have to preach on Sunday. So we need to get back in time. As parenting, we realize that this is something that is in some ways temporary, in that our kids are only in our homes for a certain amount of time. And so how do we take advantage of those years? Well, in a very ancient text, the book of Deuteronomy, we find these words found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 5 through 9. This is after the Lord has instructed Moses that of what the Hebrew people would call the Shema, which is, behold, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Then says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk on the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates. You notice that these instructions are given to parents for their children. And you have the benefit of having your children in a private education. Yes, some of you are not here for the faith side of it. You're here for the excellent education. Some of you enjoy the excellent education, but you also want the faith component as well. But as we look at these things, we have to realize that Holy Scripture gives us instruction that we are to be the primary disciplers of our children. You notice that this is something that we have been tasked to do. And whether it's your faith or other things that you value and you hold dear, please do not outsource those most important lessons to the experts. Yes, utilize the church. Yes, utilize private education. Utilize organizations like Protect Young Eyes and other experts in other fields. Absolutely. But the things that are most important to you, make certain that you are taking the time to instill those values into your children. Talk about them regularly. That could be true of not only your faith, but maybe your digital life as well. So, without all of that as introduction, let's jump in. At Protect Young Eyes, to keep up with some of the data and the research that we have and updates when Apple comes out with a new update or a new app is gaining popularity or an app has added a new feature, whatever the case may be, we regularly put out that information in our monthly newsletter called The Download. And every 3 to 4 weeks, we send out an email, and in there is maybe highlighting some of the legislative work that we're involved in so you can be involved as well with your representatives or senators. We also will pay attention to the app downloads, and maybe something was 72nd last month, but this month it's 14th in its respective category. Why did it jump so high? Is the app being used for its intended purpose? Is it targeted toward children? Is it targeted toward adults? If it's targeted toward adults, are children using it to get around the things that adults wouldn't think about? And all of those things are true. And so we look at those and then we say, hey, here's an app that's on the rise. We need you to be aware of this. Read our app review because our website has plenty of app reviews, device setup guides, all of those things. And we'll show you a little bit of that toward the end of the presentation. But we want to be a resource to you. And so please, if you want to get that kind of stuff, if you register for this, you only get this. All right? We're not going to bombard you with a whole bunch of other different things. And use the email that you actually check and not the one that you only check around your birthday to get free dessert. If I ever give you an @gmail.com email address, I never plan to read your email until around July 20th, which is my birthday. If I give you my @Protect Young Eyes email, I plan to respond to you right away. Use the email that you actually check because we put a lot of effort and value into what we send out. So in your note-taking guide, you'll notice that there are a variety of different blanks and things there. How many of you are blank filler inners? Like your evening is going to go bad if you miss a blank. All right? Awesome. Just so you know, if you miss one, you can come afterwards and ask me, and I can tell you what they are, so you don't have to walk away with all the anxiety and stress of missing out on a blank. All right? But just so you know, a lot of blanks can be filled in on just this one slide. So if you like to also work ahead and you can look like, oh man, I can get 4 or 5 extra blanks in on one slide, have at it, all right? But what we've noticed is that families that exhibit these 5 habits persistently and consistently tend to have kids who learn to use technology in good and honoring ways. And so we'll look at these 5 habits: model the right behaviors, pursue authentic connection, encourage work and play, delay all addictive tech, and diligently prevent harm. These are the 5 habits that if you can employ into your household, you will see kids that learn to do and use technology in more persistent and consistently good ways. All right? So this first one, model the right behaviors. This is where we ask the question, would we want our kids using their technology the same way that we use ours? Where we use it, how we use it, what we use it for? Are the rules different for you than they are for your kids? If they are, have you explained to them why? For Cheyenne and Ryan growing up, JD and Silas, they don't have access. They don't have any devices that they consider theirs. Right? They're 10 and 7. We have a family iPad, and they get access to the iPad for about an hour, 3 days a week. If they don't want to do the iPad, then they can play the Nintendo Switch. But that's really about all the screen time that they get outside of its exact purpose for educational purposes. If it's just for recreational, they get 1 hour, 3 days a week. And as homeschooling parents, that means that we have to be intentional with so much more time. It actually almost feels like, why do we do this? It would be so much easier to say, hey, just go watch some shows forever and let me just sit and recover for a little bit. But because we know how the neurological development of the pre-adolescent and adolescent brain is impacted by excessive screen time, we say we're going to make the hard decisions for you now so you're going to excel in the life later. And so we ask this question: where you use it, how you use it, what you use it for. If it's different than what your kids' restrictions are, have you explained to them why? Some of the rules in our household is internet-connected devices don't go in bedrooms or bathrooms. And the reason for that is because those are 2 of the 5 most dangerous places for kids to be online, followed by a school bus, friend's house, grandparent's house. And so when you think about those things, we realize, okay, if I'm going to put my kid into an environment where they feel most safe in all the world, their bedroom, and give them access to millions and millions of people without monitoring in any way, that's not a place for safety. Instead of thinking of it as a cell phone or an iPad, think of it as a webcam and say, would you want a webcam with your kids when they're in the bathroom? The answer most likely is no, especially where it's probably the place where you're most sexually exposed. And so it'd be really easy to make poor decisions in that environment. Grandparents' house. Many grandparents don't know how to set up their routers for digital well-being. They're just glad they have Wi-Fi, so when the grandkids come over, they're not complaining that they don't have Wi-Fi, right? Or the school bus thing, the adult-to-child ratio, or a slumber party at a friend's house, whatever the case may be, you can find ways that, man, those are just more high-risk environments. And so if you're going to allow your kids to have technology in those environments, make sure you're having those conversations and those protections set up in place first before those allowances. Whether it's the World Health Organization or the American Academy of Pediatrics, others, when they've done research on screen time and neurological development and a variety of other different things, they find agreement in a variety of ways. We'll just highlight 3 of them this evening. 1, almost no sedentary screen time for the first 2 years of life. In fact, the first 1,000 days of a child's life and their process of transitioning into adolescence are the 2 most critical developmental times in a child's life. Those first 1,000 days and that transition into adolescence, especially for connection and relationship, we need it in those times. And if we are regularly going out for dinner and our 2-year-old has an iPad the entire time, but that's the only way to keep them quiet, we are not setting them up for success. In fact, the dinner table is one of those places that devices are just not allowed in our home. My kids need to know how to have a conversation, look somebody in the eye, not just be distracted by the device, especially when we go out. Because it's no wonder that they don't know how to handle themselves out in the public when at home, all of us are on our devices just long enough to scarf down some food if we happen to all be at the dinner table at the same time anyway. Whatever the limit now is, less is always best. And then this is that model the right behaviors, how the adults in the home use technology has an impact on the kids perceive technology. Is technology a helpful resource? Is it a tool? Is it a distraction? Is it competition? if we are regularly on our devices and we are neglecting engagement with our children, are they seeing the device as the competition? In fact, many child psychologists are starting to look at the question again of why are our young children so attracted to the devices? Is it because it's a bright screen that has a lot of moving parts, or is it because mommy or daddy is always paying attention to it? If I have it, then maybe mommy, daddy will pay attention to me. Now, it's hard to ask a 2-year-old those questions to give you feedback, and so they're still trying to figure out those things, but they're asking those questions, saying, is there more to this process? In fact, article is just written back in June. It's so boring. Gen Z parents don't like reading to their kids, and educators are worried. For those of you, I'm going to ask now, how many of you have kids that are under the age of 5 in your home? Okay. How many have kids that are 5 to 10 in your home? Again, you can raise your hand for multiples of these. Okay, how many of you have kids that are 10 to 15 in your home? Okay, over 15, but still in the house. Okay, how many have kids that are out of the house? All right, very good. I'm with you. I've been with you at some point. We've kicked kids out of the house, and we also have little ones in the house. But what's interesting is seeing a trend of being so bored of actually reading books to their kids because we are so glued to our own devices, and there's not the stimulation off of a static page that we need other things. And so we'll watch shows, we'll listen to podcasts, we do other different media, but sitting down with a book with your child next to you and just reading through them is not only having impact on just the relational capacity of children, but also the educative influence and impact of they just don't know how to read. So many kids are so much further behind in their readings testing scores than they were even a decade ago. Now, COVID did a number to a lot of things, and so that really messes with some of those things. And so the variances and the outliers of COVID have unique impact on the studies. But as we look at these things, we need to realize that there's been a shift in our parenting strategies, and seeing time sitting down with our children, reading a book with them as being boring or something that we'd want to avoid is having effects on our children. So what does this look like when we're talking about modeling the right behavior? 1, post with permission. And you may be thinking, Doug, you're asking me to get consent from my child for me to post something about them online? They're 3. Okay, I get it. But here's what you're actually wanting to teach your child in this. And I do. I ask JD and Silas all the time, hey, are you okay if I send this picture to grandma and grandpa? Like, even if it's to my parents, I still ask for their consent. Because I want their default posture to be, if I post something of somebody else, I need to get their permission first. So it's not just giving my children rule of the roost and they're the ones that are in control of the household. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm the parent. I'm the head of the home. I'm responsible for their well-being, but I'm also responsible for making responsible adults out of them. And I want for them to have that native default of, oh, I'm going to ask them if they're okay if I post this on my Instagram account before I post it. If you think of how many of our students, how many of our children have either had inappropriate images sent to them without consent of the original person, or just content, even if it isn't inappropriate, just unwanted content being passed around the school from device to device. I want our kids to be like, hey, I just got this text message of Emily. Hey, Emily, do you know this is going out about you? No, where did you get that? I don't know, it's just it seems like there's a group chat with a bunch of other people. I don't know who sent it. I want Emily to know that this is going around so she can try to put a stop to it. I want Stephen to know. Okay, have those things. So post with permission. Next, announce your tech intentions. What we mean by this is there are going to be times when you get the phone call, the email, the text message, whatever it is, you need to reply to in that moment while you're talking to your kid. They're there and they are wanting to tell you about your day, and all of a sudden something you need to reply to in the moment comes up. Say, hey, bud, I need for you to hold just a second. I need to reply to this, and I'm going to come right back to you. I'm sorry, but I need to interrupt just for a little bit, and then go ahead and do that. But then come back, because just like it is with our kids, these devices are designed for distraction and consumption on our devices as well. So you respond to that email or that text message from your boss, your coworker, or somebody who's dependent upon you for something, and you do that, and all of a sudden, like, a baseball game just ended. Or, Amazon Day's coming up. Or all of a sudden, you're 10 minutes later watching videos of cats falling off of televisions on YouTube, and you have no idea how you got there. But you do know that your kid is still waiting for you 15 minutes ago trying to get your attention again. So how do we navigate through that? Again, we want to announce our tech intentions and then be fulfilling our word and coming back. Next, practice the sweetness of doing nothing. It's incredible to me that boredom has almost become the chief enemy number one of our society. We will do anything not to be bored. The sad thing is, our brains need boredom. How many of you come up with amazing ideas while standing in the shower? Like, you have some of the greatest clarity. You have the best ideas come up out of, wanna know why? Got nothing else going on. At this stage of our life, we've done this tens of thousands of times. We're on autopilot. We know where all the stuff is. Even with the shampoo in our eyes, we know exactly where the tray is for the other different things. But our brain has a rest. And it's amazing what we can come up with. In fact, Einstein came up with some of his best thinking while sitting on his sailboat. And so we have to be thinking through this. How can we show our children the sweetness of doing nothing? Well, if you want a list longer than this, just Google busy people don't have epiphanies and read on it. Here's some answers that we have populated to create that sweetness of doing nothing, that boredom piece to it. No digital devices in the bathroom. Ditch phone holders in your car. Don't take your phone if you're just going to get gas or a gallon of milk. You don't need to check email at the stoplight or while you're waiting in line getting the milk. If you fly, this is one of the hard ones for me because I have so many things I'm trying to get done while sitting in that airplane. If you fly, try traveling without AirPods. And there have been some amazing conversations I've had with some people sitting on a Delta plane going from one spot of the country to the other. Absolutely. No phones in the bedrooms. Be aware of how often you take photos of your child. Don't have them out at meals, not at appointments. How many of you sit down in the dentist office and your butt hasn't even hit the chair yet and your phone is out and you're getting ready to be distracted by something? JD and Silas and I, when we started going to our chiropractor, early on, we just sat there and I said, hey, let's play I Spy. So we're playing I Spy. We made the rule that you can't pick anything white, green, or black because there are so many things that are white, green, or black in the office. And so any other color, fair game, just not those three. We don't play I Spy anywhere else in the world. But my 10 and 7-year-old, as soon as we walk into the door, we haven't even sat down yet. We walk into the door, one of them, I spy something red. That space just initiates, we're playing I Spy. Now, we could sit and just scroll through endlessly or go on YouTube, whatever the case may be, but we've chosen to say, hey, while we're doing this, we're going to practice the sweetness of doing nothing. We drove 5 hours to get here yesterday. 1 hour of it was given to them playing the Switch. The other 4 hours, they had to figure out what they were going to do on their own. In fact, we have a rule. If we're in the car for less than an hour, we don't even bring devices. If it's longer than that, we probably won't. This 5-hour stretch, like, hey, we'll bring it, set it up, play it in the back seat of the car. So practice the sweetness of doing nothing, and then make a plan and stick with it. This, I think, is that hardest piece. One, making a plan, because that means that both of the adults in the household have to try to agree on something. And one of you is probably the one that has the stronger opinions that you ought not do something, and the other one's like, what's the big deal, right? It tends to be that those kinds of people marry each other. It's just, again, that opposites attract kind of a thing. That's just kind of how it goes, right? And so with this, make a plan and stick with it. So put something together and then enforce it. Because if your kids know, because they do, that one of you will cave earlier than the other one, you know that the other one's going to get barraged all the time. But Dad, can we please? Or but Mom, can we please? To the point that, okay, fine, just whatever, I don't care. All right, cool. And they'll go and do whatever they want to do. That's all they wanted. They didn't want to make you upset. They just wanted to get you to relent. And so with this, make a plan and stick with it. On our website, we have an entire page set aside to resources like this. We have resources on there. My kid saw porn. What do I do? My kid had somebody they didn't know try to chat with them. What do I do? All these other different scenarios of kind of helpful guides. But then also in there is this family media plan. Now you can make your own, but this is just kind of a launch point for you to say, hey, how could we be intentional? Do our kids know where cell phones or internet-connected devices can and cannot go? Do they know how long that they can be on the device? Do they know where it can go? Do they know if it gets broken, who's responsible to replace it? All of those kinds of things. And we put that together, and then on ours, for our home, we have a parent and then that child sign the document. It's now binding. Now, you can amend it. Again, rules when Silas is 7 are going to be different than when Silas is 17. So there's going to be change it as they get older and develop, but have something and then have an agreed upon thing and invite them in that process to help with creating some of the rules. Because you might be completely overbearing and irrational in your rules. But also have your things. He's like, you know what? I'm not going to bend on this at all. As long as you're under my roof, this will never be true of you. You will not be able to do this, or you will always do this. When you move out, fine. But while you're under my roof, I'm not going to bend on this. Find those, hold on to them, but everything can't be that. Not everything is 100% most important, because then nothing is 100% most important. So find those few things that that you will die on that hill for, and then invite them into the other things as well. Because any rule that they help create is one they're going to be more willing to adhere to. One family, after a presentation, she decided they're going to charge all of their devices in the same drawer and then have this piece of paper in there for tech use. And on there is some phrasing from our student presentations, from previous parent presentations, and then just some of their own stuff as well. But ask permission. Every device is on loan. Co-play, meaning we do something together. Curiosity, we ask questions. It's curiosity, not condemnation. We're going to ask open-ended questions. Walk away. Mom and dad are safe. Help create the rules. Report ads. If I get mad when I take it away, it's gone for a day. Am I going to be helpful or hurtful? And that's just a reminder that anytime that they go to grab a device, that they're reminded of those things. These are the ground rules for all devices for our home. And so then you can come up with whatever yours are. You don't have to just take these ones. Again, you are the CEOs of your household. You can make these laws and enforce them. I think also writing them down helps in kind of getting rid of some of the crazy. Because when also we see something written down like, that's psycho. Okay, let's change that. You're right. I was having a bad day that day. I just read a story about how somebody was abducted, and so you were not going to be able to play anything until 3 decades from now. All right? Next, so we have model the right behaviors, then pursue authentic connection. This is where we look at asking this question, how well do you know the heart of your child? For those of you that have older children, if you were to think, what is your child's favorite game? What is your child's favorite snack? What is your child's favorite sports team? What is your child's favorite artist or musician or whatever the case may be? Do all of your answers stop when they're about 9 or 10 years old and now they're 15? You've stopped being curious about your kid. You're still making this, assuming you're going to make this thing for their birthday dinner because they always loved this growing up, and you find out they haven't liked it in 3 years but didn't have the heart to tell you. How well do you know the heart of your kids? What makes them tick? Remember, a full calendar doesn't necessarily mean a full heart. Many times, our kids want more of us than they let on. Dr. Kurt Thompson said it this way. We can grow up in homes in which the food finds the table, the money finds the college funds, and the family even finds the church each Sunday, but somehow our hearts remain undiscovered by the two people who most need to know us, our parents. And many times we stop learning and being students of our children. In infancy, you know the meaning of every nuanced cry. This is a dirty diaper cry. This is a tired cry. This is a hungry cry. This is an anger cry. This is a pain cry. You know all of the nuances to all of that. But you don't know how to distinguish that as a 13-year-old. So our recommendation is to build trust. Now, when we talk about this in this arena is digital trust, and we find that households that have digital trust is high, digital friction is low. This feels like a wonderful thing that you could buy on Etsy, stitched into something beautiful, and be like, this looks really nice. I have no idea what this means. I'm with you. So what does this look like? What does digital trust look like? Well, for starters, one of those ways is it starts out with just not freaking out. All right? Some of you, how many of you are the freak out parents? We can be just honest about this. I tend to, as in my parenting style, I like to just deal with it right away. Like, I don't freak out, but we're going to get right to it. Like, I am a hammer in every scenario is a nail. We're going to whack it once, and it's going to be done, right? And I have to remember, okay, hold on a second, Doug. He's 7, all right? You don't even do the right thing after one correction, so how can you expect your child to? And so I try to, okay, more grace, more grace, more grace. But for those of us who are those freak out parents where everything is always the biggest deal, one, you're going to become the boy that cries wolf. That your kids aren't going to know when it actually is a big deal because you're overreacting to everything. But two, what it's to end up doing is when we overreact, especially that first time, your kid comes and says, hey, Mommy, I saw naked people on the iPad today. Again, just, it didn't really happen, okay? Maybe it did. But some of you just hearing that could possibly be a thing, like your heart rate just went up 25 points. What could you do then? Well, my recommendation, make a list of the 10 things you hope your kid never tells you. Then read them to yourself in the mirror until you can do it without dry heaving. All right? Just start there. All right? But put yourself in those scenarios so that you're not freaking out. Because honestly, especially when our kids are younger and they come and they tell you something they didn't know was a big deal, and you overreact way more than they ever thought. All of a sudden, it's like, next time I'm not telling mom or dad, not because I got in trouble, but because I don't like making mommy or daddy that angry, and I don't want to tell them next time. You're going to break those bridges of trust. Again, you saw curiosity on that list from that mom. One of our presentations used to talk about curiosity over condemnation, where our posture as parenting is that we assume that we know all of the details about everything and that we are making a judgment call right in the moment, and it's aggressive and it's final. When all we had to do was just ask a question and let them answer, we may have found that it was completely different than what we had assumed. You want to build trust? Ask questions. Also recognize that much of what they experience online isn't their fault. These devices and these technologies were not designed with children in mind. We're putting kids into the adult playground thinking that they can handle it. And they can't. They don't know how to handle those things. We had one mom come and talk to us, and I think we wrote a blog post about, and she gave us permission to do it, but wrote a post where she learned that her son had been viewing just exorbitant amounts of porn. And when this mom came and asked their son, he said, I didn't want to do it, but I just couldn't stop looking at it. It consumed him. Didn't know where to turn. Didn't know how to handle it. Our presentations tomorrow are going to help your kids know how to handle that. The instruction that we give to children, put it down and tell someone. Now, in all the presentations tomorrow, just so you know, I'm not using the word pornography. But in all the presentations, we are going to be talking about that there is content on the internet that when you see it, you need to put it down and tell someone. And then we go through the list. If it happens at school, who should you tell? If it happens at home, who should you tell? If it happens at a friend's house, who should you tell? If someone if you don't know them off the internet, you don't talk to them on the internet. And we call online predators tricky people. And some of the nicest people you're ever going to find on the internet are tricky people. I'll give them a scenario, say, hey, say you're playing on Roblox and someone starts asking you questions. Usually they sound really, really nice. They want to know a lot about you, and you're talking about sports. And they say, hey, do you have a favorite sports team? You're like, yeah, I do. Oh, yeah, really, who is it? Well, I love the Florida State Seminoles. Oh, that's awesome. Have you ever been to a game before? Yeah, we go to a couple of them every year. That's so cool. I wish I could go to a game like that sometime. And I'll say to the kids, what were you just talking about? You know what their answer usually is? Football. Like, absolutely not. And they look at me like I have 4 heads. Like, yes, you were. No. Did you know that most kids are fans of the team they live closest to? Again, I'm a lifelong Detroit Lions fan. Why? Because I was born in Michigan. I'm also a Pistons fan, a Tigers fan, a Red Wings fan, a Michigan Wolverines fan, all of those things because that's where I grew up. And I'm trying to teach my sons who live in Florida to hold to all the Michigan teams as well. It helps that some of them are actually good right now. But as we look at those things, I say, no, they're actually trying to find out where you live. That's why they're so tricky. And so if a tricky person, if someone you don't know off the internet tries to talk to you on the internet, what are you supposed to do? And I'll separate the room. Okay, when I point to you guys is to put it down, and they do an alligator chop. And I say to you guys, I would tell someone, they put their hands around their mouth and say, tell someone. We start with a whisper. We slowly get louder and louder and louder. Because I want them to know what to do when these scenarios happen. You see porn, this is what you do. You have an online predator, this is what I want you to do. Again, we talk about age-appropriate ways, but I need for my kids to know, and I need for your kids to know what to do, and that they can come and talk to you, and that you want them to come and talk to you. Have you ever told your kids, have you ever seen any of these things, you can always come and talk to Dad. He's okay, he's safe. In those moments when we feel like overreacting, we only see one person in all of Scripture that's able to balance both grace and truth perfectly, and it was our Savior, Jesus Christ. Now, we can't emulate that perfectly because we're fallen creatures, all right? All of us have sinned. We've all done something wrong. We're not going to be able to do it perfectly. But for those of you that tend to be all truth, it's time to start showing a little bit more grace. Those of you that are the pushover parent and it's all grace, it's time to start building some of your truth muscles. But to try to find a way to balance both grace and truth. When I tell my kids, it's never a bad time for you to come and talk to me about stuff that you saw or heard about online. You're not going to be in trouble if you initiate the conversation with me. Now, if I find out about it and you're trying to keep it from me, that's a totally different scenario. But if stuff is happening and you come and talk to me about it, I want you to know I want you to talk to me about it. And two, you're not going to be in trouble because you came and talked to me about it. If that means that you have to be involved with what they're involved in, do it. If that means you have to lose 100,000 times in a row in Super Smash Bros., then you're going to lose 100,000 times in a row in Super Smash Bros. They're not going to tell you why your character keeps flying off the screen and not coming back, and theirs comes back without them losing a life. You're like, how does that happen? I don't know, Dad. You have to figure it out. They love beating you. I loved beating my dad in video games growing up. But whatever they're into, find a way to insert yourself into that and practice being curious. Stated another way, does your child know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they can always land softly with you? If not, that's part of your homework assignment this week. Start building that digital trust with your kids, with your grandkids. Maybe it starts off with an apology saying, you know what, a lot of this stuff, it terrifies me. I don't get it. It wasn't part of my childhood. And when I look at what it's doing to other people's kids and even doing to you and doing to me, even as a grown adult who knows better, all of these things, it really just bothers me. And there's a lot of times that I am more upset with the technology than I am with you, but it's really hard to tell the difference. And I'm sorry. I didn't have this growing up, so I'm trying to learn how to be a parent in this. Nobody really took the time to teach me on this, except for you guys because you came to the PYE presentation. But how do we go through this together? I want to show more grace to you in understanding the world that you're growing up in. If you could show a little bit more grace to me, because I've never parented a kid your age in this world like this. So with that being vulnerability, let's ask a really fun question. What's the right age to talk to your kids about porn? This is where you get to talk out loud. Okay? I get that a lot whenever they ask. How many of you, when you saw porn for the first time, thought, I can't wait for Dad to get home so I can tell him? Right? But I'm with you. Because if they ask, you better be ready to have the conversation 100%. But my parents were not the people I was going to be asking when I saw that for the first time. What else? But thank you for answering. I do appreciate that. I really do. Okay, I hear 11. I almost feel like an auctioneer at this point in the presentation. Anybody feel like 11 seems young? Raise your hand. How many think 11 seems old? Raise your hand. Okay, so if we're under 11, I hear 8. And I've already told you that I talk to kindergartners about this. So you know kind of where I stand. Cat out of the bag, which is the weirdest statement ever. Like, how did the cat get in the bag, and why is that an idiom? But anyway, what's the right age to talk? And when we talk about it, again, you don't have to use the word, but your kids need to have an awareness that there is stuff online that is really not to be seen by anybody, but especially children. And if you see it, know that mommy or daddy knows that it's there, and you can come and talk to us about it. Again, that's that digital trust. You can always come and talk to me about any question you ever have. We've actually written an article on our website, a blog post of how to talk to a 5-year-old about porn. Again, it's in our kindergarten through second grade presentations. So how do you have those kinds of conversations? And sadly, you think, is that really too young? I was speaking at one of the top testing schools in the greater Atlanta area a couple of years ago. That week, local law enforcement was confiscating 2 Chromebooks from the school because a 3rd and a 5th grader were sexting with each other. That's an 8 and a 10-year-old. So not only do they know that this kind of content exists, they're creating it and sending it to somebody else. And the sad thing is that's so much more common than it was even a decade ago. And so how does law enforcement enforce that? Because according to the law, that is child sexual assault material, and according to most laws in our country, if you produce, are in possession of, or are guilty of distribution of, you go on the sex offender registry. There's misdemeanors, if not low-grade felonies, depending on the severity and the how many times you've done it. And so it's one thing if you're a 40-year-old asking for and sending pictures of a 4-year-old, but when it's an 8 and a 10-year-old, then what do you do? How do you navigate those waters? So our encouragement is to have at least 10 meaningful conversations about porn with your kid before their 10th birthday. So if you haven't talked to your kid about this and they're 11, you have a busy week in front of you. Right? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so when I talk about pornography, I'll generally say things, and the question was, instead of using the word pornography, how do you talk about that? Again, saying pictures that are confusing or pictures that give you a funny feeling inside your tummy. When I talk about predators, I call them tricky people. And so we just trying to get at the topic from a couple of different ways. And so have 10 solid conversations about porn before age 10. If you want to read a blog post on kind of our approach to this, that's here. Again, some of you have taken pictures of the slides. I think you should take pictures of all the slides if you want. I have no problem with you doing that at all. This is actually being recorded as well for your viewing to be able to see that later. If there's a ball game that you need to check the score of and you need to pretend you're taking a picture of the slide, just go ahead and do it. The only people that know that you're not taking a picture is Jesus and everybody sitting behind you. But if you're okay with that, then I'm okay with that, right? But to be able to utilize these resources, we want to be able to point you in some of these directions because we can't say all the things we want to say because this is only one of 3 90-minute presentations that we give, and those 3 are a culmination of thousands of hours of data that we could put in front of you. But it shows up this way. This is in the Free Press. A 16-year-old girl authored this article and said, I had a helicopter mom and I found Pornhub anyway. We'll just look at some of the underlying things in this article. It says, the website, Pornhub, has no age verification, no ID requirements, not even a prompt asking me if I was over 18. That next paragraph, where was my mother? In the next room making sure I was eating 9 differently colored fruits and vegetables on the daily. She was attentive, nearly a helicopter parent, but I found online porn anyway, and so did my friends. And I think a lot of times there's a stigma that porn is a guy thing, but it's so much more as a girl thing as well. And a lot of it is because of so much of the guys are looking at it, they have expectations of what a relationship looks like, and so the girls have to watch it so they know what the guy's expectations are to get and keep a boyfriend. So the guys are doing it many times because of identity, like everybody else seems to know what this stuff is, and I don't want to be looking at as like the little boy that still wets his bed and has to ask his mommy for stuff. So I want to know about these things so I can talk about it. And so it's identity. Our girls are many times doing it because of answering that bigger question of value. If I want to be loved, I want to have a relationship, I want to be cared for. And it seems like the only way to do that is to make sure that I know how to take care of somebody. And so they come to the same content for different reasons, and they all are getting sucked into this and getting addicted. And so to continue on with this, the stats are this way. 73% of teens have seen porn, and most are exposed to it before they are a teenager. This is from Fight the New Drug, probably the preeminent organization for statistics on pornography and its influence, especially on children, but on society as a whole. But Fight the New Drug, they're a fantastic organization. If you want to read a little bit more on some of the influences, impacts on that, how to have conversations in this way, other statistics, this is more stuff here. If this is an area that either you've struggled with or your kids are struggling with and you want to read more on it, if you go to our website and in the search bar of our website, not if you don't know the difference, just don't do this, okay? Not the Google bar up top. On the search bar of our website, type the word pornography, all right? If you do it in the Google bar up top, that's your fault. All right? Doug from PYE did not tell you to search porn on the open internet. I told you to search the word pornography at protectyoungeyes.com, and you can read the stuff we've written on the topic, okay? And there's a lot of stuff there. But when we also are talking about this pursue authentic connection piece, much of our kids are looking for that connection, and they will find it. Whether it's in real life or through AI, they will find it. Again, we talked about those first 1,000 days and then that transition into adolescence. Those are critical times for relational capital to be established and built. And what ends up happening is if I feel alone, if I feel like there's nobody I can talk to about these things, if I'm just going to get judged for these things, then there are platforms where I can go and talk to an AI character and get all the information I want, all the companionship that I need, and I can have a false sense of connection, even with an innocent, impersonal, probably a better word, bot. Replica, this is their hook. The AI companion who cares, always here to listen and talk, always on your side. Doesn't that sound like something that a middle school kid would want to have? Someone always to talk to and someone who's always going to have your back? And platforms like Replica are there. Axios did a study just earlier this year asking, among many other things, this question: why teens say they use AI companions? And it ranges from it's entertaining, they're curious about the technology, gives advice, all the way down to they don't judge me. They're available when I want somebody to talk to. I can tell them things I wouldn't tell my friends or family. It helps me feel less lonely. And this was done in May. I need you to realize that that's back when ChatGPT was still making images where you were missing a leg or had 7 fingers on one hand. Things have changed so much since then. So as we think through this, we have to realize that if almost 3/4 of teens have said that they have used AI for companionship, we as parents need to know this. We need to know what these apps are. We need to know if they're on our kids' devices. And another piece of this is not just the AI companionship, where they will become whomever you want them to become. You want to have somebody to talk dirty with, AI will absolutely, Replica will absolutely do that. Say you don't want to go through all the difficulty of taking a girl out for dinner and out on dates, but you want to get her nudes. Well, we're not going to give you the name of the website that does this, but there is more than one nudifying type of platform where our child can have a picture on Instagram of them sitting with their grandmother at church, and if she looked not cute on that picture, someone could say, hey, I'm going to take that face and I'm going to throw it onto this body, and it's going to be real enough. I don't have to deal with all of this. I don't have to ask her for this and get rejected. I can just create something and it's good enough. And the hard thing is, legislation is trying to figure out, does this qualify for child sexual abuse material? Is it actually child porn if it's not an image of an actual minor? It has the face of, but not the sexual representation of. So is it illegal? So as we work through these things, again, imagine wasting time taking her on dates when you can just use this to get her nudes. It blows my mind. This is off of their website. This is not just us trying to aggrandize and to try to make something sound way worse than it is. This is just copy-paste from their website. This is their intention. So if you want to learn a little bit more about AI companions, please read our blog post on this. Again, this is what your kids are dealing with. Again, the school is taking very seriously what is the role of AI in the classroom, but also as parents, we need to take very seriously what role does AI have in our social and relational life as well. It's more than just Chat GPT or high processing of medical data to be able to spit out a diagnosis. It is so much more than that. It includes that, but so much more than that. I was speaking in San Francisco a couple of times in September, and one of the times I was driving through, it just hit me that probably over 90% of the advertisements along the side of the highway in San Francisco had AI in it. Whether it was for medical stuff, for social stuff, whatever it was, AI was the thing, because I'm in their backyard. This is where many of these technologies are being developed. And so again, some of them are going to make your world a better place, a more efficient place. Some of it is going to destroy our families, and we need to be mindful of that. I'm going to skip this video because of time, but this is Chris, again, just talking about how to have this conversation, car time, meal time, together time, talking about pornography, other different things that are concerning you, asking those questions when you maybe have those shoulder-to-shoulder conversations, where maybe you're driving down the road, you're making dinner together, whatever the case may be. When you have something else going on, you can have those conversations. Again, leading with curiosity. Have you ever been on a device and you saw something that was confusing? Have you ever been doing something and you saw naked people on someone else's device? However you want to ask the question, did anything ever happen that you were confused about, even while you were doing homework? Listen to the response and then navigate through that. But ask those open-ended questions. So what do we do with this? Well, one, we want to do tech together. Do tech together. Again, this is that co-play piece that you saw on that sheet from that mom's drawer. But do tech together. Watch videos together. Let technology be a we activity, not just a me activity. If the tech in your house is regularly isolating your family into different corners of the house where you're not engaging and communicating with one another, it is having a negative impact on the well-being of your household. This doesn't mean that your kids have to watch all the shows on Netflix that you watch. They have to follow all the people on Instagram or Pinterest that you follow. That's not what I'm saying. But you do need to find ways to put yourself into their digital life and other ways to invite them into yours. Square up and look at them. So much of our kids, even though I just said have shoulder-to-shoulder conversations, but we also need to have conversations where we square up and we show our kids the respect and have those conversations. To look somebody in the eye. When Ryan moved into our family, he was 9 years old, and I said, hey, dude, I'm going to teach you how to introduce yourself. You look somebody in the eye, you shake their hand, you give them a good firm handshake, tell them your name, ask them theirs, how they're doing, those kinds of things. I'm like, buddy, that's going to get you a job someday. He's like, Dad, you're an idiot. And there's no way. It's that simple. I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, the bar is really low right now. But he was 14, 15, almost 16 years old, and was like, dude, you need to do something beyond going to school and sitting at home. You need to get a job. So the local car wash was hiring. We drove him there. He interviewed. He got hired. First day on the job, the hiring manager was on site at his car wash location and was asking how the first day was going, all that kind of stuff, just small talking. And he said, hey, Ryan, I just want to let you know, I knew I was going to hire you on your handshake. That kid did not want to tell me that story. Because Dad had cracked the code. Like, there's no way this is for real. Like, there's no way. Like, it really is. I'm telling you. And so, if your kids can't have a face-to-face conversation with you, and if you're struggling to have a face-to-face conversation with your kids, it's time to start practicing that. Have those meaningful conversations. And then practice, practice, practice. With JD and Silas, it looks this way. If I ever want to show them something on my device, and hey guys, why don't you see this? Their response is supposed to be, and they actually do really well with this now, they struggled early on, is, what do you want to show me? And it's my job to verbally describe what I want to show them, and then they make the decision if they want to see it or not. Now, 100% of the time they want to see it. Because again, remember, they get restricted time on screen, so any chance is like, mosquito to the light bulb. It's like, yes, I want to. But I want them in there, so when they're with their buddies doing whatever at the playground, whatever, and like, hey dude, you got to see this. I want them before they're even thinking of it. What do you want to show me? Even if they're embarrassed after they ask the question, I don't care that it's already out there and they need to be able to now deal with it. So we practice that. I'll also say, hey guys, why don't you go in the other room, into the living room, because we don't practice this in the bedroom because the cell phone or internet connected device wouldn't go into the bedroom. I want you to be in the living room. I'm going to go into my office. I want you to pretend that somebody you don't know tried to chat with you. Now, they don't play any games that you can chat, but I'm still preparing them for when that day comes. So again, they're 10 and 7. They don't need to do that. And so then a little bit later, knock on the door, and I'm like, hey, what's up, dude? He's like, hey, someone I don't know was trying to chat with me online. I said, well, did you answer anything? Did you say anything to him? Well, no. So what did you do? I put it down and I came and talked to you. Like, you just told me to do this 7 seconds ago. Like, Dad, how do you not know this? Like, but I want that practice to be going on to establish these patterns. Again, whether it's porn, predators, or other problems, put it down and tell someone. So, do tech together, square up and look at them, practice, and then Google me. What do I mean by that? If you have a question about anything, come and talk to Dad. Our daughter Cheyenne, she'll turn 28 in December. She still will call me if she has a question about something. Does the internet exist in Michigan? It does. Really well. It's doing really well up there. She's still going to call Dad. Recipes? Absolutely. Out of my wife and I, Rose likes to make meals because it checks the box off the list of things that have to be done before the kids go to bed. Me, it's like, hey, what can we make? It's going to be a creative expression. We're going to get all the things out. We're going to figure things out. And so my kids will call me, hey, Dad, I'm trying to think of something for dinner. It's like, what do you got in the fridge, in the pantry? She'll tell me, it's like, well, you could do this, or this. Do you have this? No. Okay, well, then you can probably adapt it with this. She could go to Google or to ChatGPT and say, give me 10 recipes with these ingredients, and it would give them to her. I remember when she was probably 14 or 15, again, she lived in our home for a couple of years, and for her, if a thought is in her head, it's out her mouth. It's just no filter. She's always been that way. And she came up to me, and I was working on my laptop at the house, and she goes, Dad, what's up, sweetheart? She goes, what's erectile dysfunction? I was like, you really want to know? Yep. It's like, okay. Do you know what dysfunction means? Start with the easier of the two terms. Do you know what dysfunction means? And something doesn't function, doesn't work the way that it's supposed to. She's like, okay, that makes sense. And I say, well, sweetheart, do you know what an erection is? And she kind of looks at me with a smirk on her face, but also shaking her head no, like, I think that I might, but if I say what I think and I'm wrong, I don't want to have this conversation right now. And so I was like, well, sweetheart, when a man's penis, she goes, hold on a second. And she ran out of the room. Only to come back not even 60 seconds later with the teddy bear, sat on the couch next to me, put the teddy bear on her lap, plugged the teddy bear's ears, and said, okay, go ahead. And we talked about it. But it was just one of those things. I want them to know they can always come and ask me about anything. Again, Ryan, he's finally learning that his dad knows some things. And guys, we deal with that. At some point in our lives, our dads are idiots. And then we come to find out, actually, they knew what they were talking about. And hopefully you figure that out while you still have opportunity to ask those questions of your dad. With Cheyenne, it was always that way. I remember when she was pregnant with her first, she was feeling something, and she called me. Like, Dad, this is going on. I'm feeling this over here. What should I do? My sweetheart, I am so honored you're asking me. I've never been pregnant. So now medically, have I been trained to be able to deliver a baby in an emergency situation? Yes, I do have medical training to be able to do that. I don't know what you're feeling. It seems like it could be one of these couple of things. As soon as you can get a hold of Mom, ask her. And anything she says that's different than me, she's right, all right? But the fact that she would even think to ask Dad about a question about pregnancy blows my brain. But we worked hard to establish that relationship so she knew that she could always come and ask me about anything. And there's not going to be shame or embarrassment about it. I'm going to say, okay, you really want to know? Absolutely. And if I don't know the answer, we'll figure it out together. Next, encourage work and play. We all want children to thrive. The problem is in the decisions we've made to support this noble goal. We prioritize safety over freedom, achievement over play, and screen time over outdoor time, says Mariana Brusoni. I'm going to skip video. This is Chris doing a podcast with a woman. Her name is Melissa Griffin, and she started an organization called HR Mom. She's awesome. If you're not following her, follow her. But she was an HR executive, and she was growing just woefully exhausted with terrible resumes and interviews. And so she's like, okay, if people aren't learning this, I'm going to come alongside as a mom and walk you through how do you put together a good resume? How do you get dressed for an interview? What kinds of questions should you ask in the interview? How should you present yourself? All of these kinds of things. She's awesome. All right? So in an interview we did with her, when we're talking about encouraging work and play, our kids need to have responsibilities in the house. Yes, they need to play, but they also need to have things that the household depends on them for. And so she says, CEOs don't check the mail. There are responsibilities that you delegate so that you can do your responsibility better, right? Stop parenting and start leading. Chris in there says, let the lines be crooked. And what he's talking about is mowing the grass. Any of you really just paranoid about a really straight line mowing the grass? Any of you really good at mowing a straight line? I was too. I don't know why I was born with it. All I say is, okay, there's a tree on the other side. If I keep it between my two wheels, it'll be a straight line. It's not that hard. When I taught Ryan how to mow the grass, you'd have thought that he was, doing an Etch-a-Sketch chasing a butterfly. You're like, what in the world is going on? How in the world do you think this is a straight line? The crazy thing is, Ryan just started a lawn care company this last summer, so he finally figured it out, absolutely. But let the lines be crooked. Let them do the job, and then lead them through that. Now, I got to warn you, this next slide's going to give some of you anxiety. You know the underside of that green bowl didn't get a drop of water on it. And whatever was in there is now crusted on. That black dish is face up, so that was a Petri dish, a science experiment of the crumbs of everything else that's now soaking in there. But when you look at this is Chris's dishwasher with his middle school aged son attempting to load it. Now, Grant, who loaded this dishwasher, is one of the greatest humans you'll ever meet. Grant is a twin, and Grant has Down syndrome. His twin does not. And so this is Grant's attempt at loading a dishwasher. Now, instead of getting all hard on Grant and saying, how could you do it this way, and then I'll just do it myself, show him, okay, you notice how this bowl didn't get anything clean on it. Why do you think that is? Walking through those kinds of things. And again, Grant is one of the best humans. Whenever I'm on a Zoom call with Chris and Grant's home, he'll walk in, and because he always wants to know if his best friend Doug is on the call. And I love that I'm Grant's best friend Doug. When we are in town and we have dinner together, I always want to sit by Grant because we have the best time at dinner. But again, encourage work and play. Give them responsibilities. JD and Silas, their job is to bring the trash and recycling down to the end of the street every Wednesday and then bring it back every Thursday morning. It's their job to empty the dishwasher. There are jobs that if they don't get done, they don't get done. I'm not going to do them because it's JD and Silas's job. Now, Rose has a different opinion when it comes to trash because, as you know, living in Florida, a week extra sitting in the garage is the worst because our HOA doesn't let us put trash outside because we want to look at ugly things like trash containers. So when you have those things, so she'll say, hey, guys, it's Wednesday night. You need to take the trash out. I'm like, shh. They need to remember. But as we work through these things, we want to give them responsibilities. Remember when fun was fun? Yeah, exactly. How many of you, your thighs just somehow burned and the screech in your ear is as you're going down that thing, right? Go a generation or two earlier and you have even better. But when we think of how we have overprotected our kids in the physical world and underprotected them in the digital world, we only need to look and see how far we've come. Now, this may have been a poor idea. I guarantee you that's one of Silas's. Silas is a descendant of that kid because that's exactly where Silas would be. Hey, Dad, look at me. Yeah, that's awesome, dude. But what we've seen is over the last 50 years, both play and mental health have reduced significantly. And what has happened is, again, we are so terrified of the worst thing possible happening that we are paralyzed in letting our kids experience anything away from us. My son JD lost his water bottle today somewhere at the Capitol. No idea where it is. And so when we were going through the old Capitol, he put it down somewhere because we did the older kid scavenger hunt because they have one for little kids, one for older kids. I'm like, you guys want to do the little kid one or you wanted the challenge of the older kid one? We took the challenge of the older kid one. So we did it. Well, when he turned it in, I think somewhere he put his water bottle down. We have no idea where it is. We learned this about 10 minutes after leaving that area. We went over to go to the 22nd floor of the new Capitol, did all that kind of stuff, come back down. I'm like, JD, we just went through the metal detector, and I don't remember your water bottle being a part of that. And that would have sent it off because it's a metal water bottle. And so he's like, I don't know. I had JD go back into the museum, the old Capitol, by himself to go and look to find it. He's 10. Why? Because he needs to do things on his own. I'm right outside. There's people in there. Go in and go inside and just go check. And he took a little while. I could see Rose kind of just getting a little antsy, like, could you just please go in? I'm like, no. He's okay. He needs to be able to do this. And he came back out, and he didn't have it. We have no idea where it is. It's somewhere. But can you give your children that freedom to do some of that? Our community pool is about a half a mile around the corner. It's in our neighborhood. We live in a gated community. It's safe and all of those things. But I let JD and Silas ride their bikes and said, hey, we'll meet you at the pool. Just go. And we get there, we meet them at the pool. There they are. We have a fun time. Now, if they're 3 and 4, that's different. If JD was 7 and Silas was still 4, it's different. But JD's 10 and Silas is 7. I need for them to go out on adventures. How many of you had parents that don't come back until the street lights come on? Right? That's what we grew up in. And so we've been just completely traumatized by all this stuff because we have all of the information of all the bad things happening in all of the world, that we are inundated with the negative stories that sell on the news, and we forget that most of what happens into our normal daily lives is boring and safe. The reality is 3/4 of tweens spend less time outside than prisoners. Even prisoners get an hour of mandatory yard time. And our kids are averaging less than an hour. Almost 3/4 of them are averaging less than an hour outside. This is not good. This has gotten us to where we are, I think, with some of the things in our culture and our society. And maybe parents are the true anxious generation. We talk about John's book of writing the anxious generation, talking about kids. Maybe it's actually us that have caused this. Ultimately, dopamine always wins, and whether it's going outside or playing Fortnite, it's probably going to be Fortnite for most of your kids. Some of you, your kids want to go outside and spend all that time outside. That's awesome. Silas would love to eat vegetables for every meal all the time. Some of you have kids that would never touch a vegetable. Some of you have not touched a vegetable in 25 years. Silas, every day, would like to eat more vegetables. Always, always, always. But we have to realize that the way that the neurology of the brain is, it's meant for addiction, and the way that the dopamine rules the brain and is motivated and intentionally designed within these platforms is telling. So some practical tips for this: visit HR Mom. Again, she's awesome. Make time outside a priority. I think it's interesting that their entire organizations, that their whole purpose is to find ideas for you to get your kids outside. I think open the door, kick them in the butt, and shut it behind them is effective, but that you're not going to find that on any of these lists, but find ways to get kids outside. Next, delay all addictive tech. We've never had a parent after any of these presentations say, you know what, one of my greatest regrets is waiting too long to give our kids Snapchat. If we thought at 11 when everybody else got it that we should let them have it, then we learned that you had to be 13 and all the friends were lying about themselves to get a Snapchat account. We're like, well, maybe you should have it then. Like, oh, I probably shouldn't lie. And then we waited and they're like, you know what, we probably should just let them do it at 11. It's been so much better. No parent has ever said that ever. All right? So, delay all addictive tech. Remember, they get one precious childhood. Holy Scripture speaks of this. Finally, brothers, these are things that we ought to be thinking about. Things that are true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, praiseworthy. If your digital content does not foster these character traits in your thought patterns, then your technology is swaying you in a direction that is not for your ultimate well-being. We have an entire 90-minute presentation on mental health technology in our kids. This is one slide from it. We actually dive into how different social media platforms leverage different neurohormones, whether it's dopamine and epinephrine, cortisol, all these other different neurohormones, and how these platforms intentionally leverage those for their own personal benefit. When we look at these things, we see the reptilian brain, whether it's that regulatory part. None of you have thought heartbeat, but yet your heart has been beating this entire time, which I'm thankful that I didn't have to do CPR on you. All right? Next, limbic system. This is the emotional part of the brain, and the brain develops from back to front. And so this is why your kids are all emotions, but they're not. Their thinking isn't fully online. Like when you were a kid, or you've maybe asked your kids, "What were you thinking?" It's like, "Well, I don't know, Dad." And it seemed to make a lot of sense at the time. Like, how? I don't know, because the complex thinking part of your brain isn't fully developed until your mid-20s. In fact, that's the actual technical end of adolescence. Some of us, our wives, are saying, you know what, honey, you're well over 25. When is it going to finish for you, right? And I get that, because boys will be boys. It's amazing. You get a group of 15 dudes who all become middle schoolers like in 7 seconds. But the limbic system, the emotions, the fear, anxiety, arousal, all those things are there. And then the complex thinking comes in. And so when you think of this, there's no long-term effect of not exposing your kids to social media at an early age. I promise you, your kids are not going to be worse off for delaying some of these things. Again, it's not a no-tech strategy, but a slow-tech strategy. At Protect Young Eyes, we decided that social media does nothing good, especially for middle schoolers on down. Just flat out. In fact, we're trying to get legislation passed that the age of a digital adulthood, which is currently 13, get bumped up to 16, where it already is in Australia, countries in the UK, and other parts of the world. We're behind in this. We're not being honest about what is going on as a culture and a society in the U.S., and it's time to change some of these things. So, we believe kids should wait until high school to get a lockdown smartphone and 16 for social media. Now, that doesn't mean no tech before high school. But when you upgrade and get your new phone and you give your hand-me-down to your 14-year-old, they're not ready for this. Maybe they are. Maybe you've been really intentional. But most of the time, we're just giving them a device. We're not even thinking of the effects of it. It's like, well, it's free. It's already paid for here. This is easy. And maybe that may be good for your family. But I just challenge you, at least be intentional about it. Think about it and come up with a solution if that's the best thing that's for your family. Again, maybe that delay ship has already sailed. Well, we'll talk about that in just a second. We also have to realize that iPads are really just big iPhones. If you wouldn't give your kid an iPhone, they just realize the iPad is just a big version of that. Okay, it can do basically all the same things. These are hot buttons, I think, for many kids of having access to Fortnite, Minecraft, and Roblox. If you haven't read about these platforms, I need for you to go to our website and read about them. Did you know that Roblox is not just a game, but a population of millions of games? Roblox, if your kid wanted to, could find an emulator, a simulator, where they go into public restrooms and have access to open into the stalls and see people sitting on the toilet. Why is that a game for kids? I have no idea, but it's on Roblox. Where the kids are is where the predators are. And so if we have millions and millions of kids on the chat on Roblox, the easiest access to kids is to be where they are. I don't need a white van with no windows and puppies and free candy at the park. I can just sit in my basement or my living room or at the park on my device playing all these games and having contact with kids from all over the world. So even if you've said no, teach them as though you've said yes. Some of you have pretty lockdown restricted houses. That's fine. But your kids always spend their entire existence in lockdown protected places. It's possible if we were to pull this room that there would be a variety of different rules and standards for how to navigate social media and technology. I get that. That's okay, as long as you're being intentional. But even if you're not letting your kid have access to it, you need to teach them how to handle it. Like right now with JD and Silas, they'll put it down and tell someone. They don't have access to devices, but I want them to know that when they do, what to do. So teach them those things. Interrupt your kid. If they're on a game or a platform, again, JD and Silas, they brought the Switch in the car on the trip up here. They're playing, I don't even remember what game they were playing because we told them to keep the volume down because my wife and I didn't want to listen to it, even because it was sitting right between us and the front console. They were probably playing Super Smash Bros. Because that's their favorite game. But as they're doing this, again, as they're working through these things, interrupting the kids, say, hey, can you pause that for a second, go empty the dishwasher? How they respond in that moment tells you everything you need to know about the power that that device has upon your kid and its brain. If it's World War III, it's done. It's done for probably a little while, not just today. If it's, yeah, sure. They hit pause, they go and they do it. Like, you know what? Go back. You can play some more. It's fine. You're keeping yourself in the correct reality and mind frame and mindset that you can play this game, know that it exists and you're enjoying it, but you do live in the real world, and when your parents and authorities ask you to do something, you pause and you do what you're supposed to do. But interrupt your kid. Okay? Oh, went too far. So then next, mindset. This is a battle between your kid's brain and the game. This is not a battle between you and your kid. I think so many times we make it personal. We have to realize, again, this is a perfectly predictable response to a perfectly executed design. Okay, I'll say that one more time. This is a perfectly predictable response to a perfectly executed design. These devices and platforms and games were designed with the intention of addiction. So we shouldn't be upset when that happens. So how do we moderate that and help our kids learn how to do these things so that the battle between our kids' brain and the game is a successful one for our children? And then find your like-minded tribe. There's an organization called Wait Until 8th. It's a group of mamas in Texas that started this organization. When they started it, they fully supported that statement of wait until 8th grade before having social. Well, things have changed since then, but they have a marketing problem. So they're wait until 8th, 9th. And soon they're going to be waiting until 8th, 11th. But it's just kind of how that goes right now. Things are changing, but they kind of have that brand awareness and recognition of wait until 8th. And so, but well worth following them. If you're on social, follow them. If you're not on social, don't get an account just to follow these things, because you're going to get drawn into everything else. Just ask your friends who are on it to update you when they post stuff. All right? One of the ways that we helped create a safer digital environment and also a platform to be able to communicate is we created a private group called The Table. And the reason why we did this is because when we would post things about Instagram on Instagram that didn't sound good for Instagram, they would put us in timeout. We have 6-figure followers on Instagram. Most of them are women between the ages of 25 and 55. We call them the CTO moms, Chief Technology Officer moms. Like they're the ones they're the mama bears that are making sure that everything's going to be okay in the den. And that's most of our followers. And so when you have an influence and then you're saying stuff about Instagram on Instagram, Instagram's like, nope. So we still post it, but we also have created an online environment where we can not only post and have those kinds of conversations, but also we have monthly open invite meetings where you can ask any questions that you have. We kind of go over our that download, some of the topics in the download that we had put out there to talk a little bit more about that if there aren't any questions. We kind of talk through that. We have a bunch of parents there. We also have videos you can watch with your kids and questions, discussion questions after that. We have specific training for you specifically, like classes on Minecraft, classes on YouTube Kids, classes on what are these different things. How for you to be aware of those kinds of things. There's a subscription model to it. The reason for that is we have staff people that we pay to care for this. And so to help pay for their salaries, then we charge for that. But you can get a free 7-day trial, get all of the things for free, and then cancel. Like, I'm not a good salesman. Again, I'm a 1099 guy now. I'm no longer the chief presentation officer, so no, it's excellent. Abby, who does this, she was a former high school Spanish teacher, and so it's fully bilingual, not only just in the resources that we print in both, but also navigating and communicating with her. And so if you want to learn more about the table, that's about all that I'm going to spend on that. But again, we want to create some of those things and have delay all addictive tech and give you some of those resources. Lastly, diligently prevent harm. Most spaces, especially digitally, are exploitive by design. So how do we navigate through this? Well, we want to wrap them in layers. So what does that look like? Well, you'll see in your note-taking guide the pyramid there with these layers. For those of us who are people of faith, again, are praying for our kids is that in our spiritual life is that foundation upon which all of this else is built on. But also that next layer is our relationships. And a lot of what we've already talked about in modeling the right behavior and pursuing authentic connection rests in this. But what we want to do is to make certain that we are protecting and guarding our hearts. So in these relationships, looking at this, model the right behaviors, pursue authentic connection, this is relational. And that's why it's the foundation of it, because everything else is built upon it. That old adage, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, is still true, especially when it comes to our kids. So, we need some hard changes, but I have no idea where to begin. What do we do? Well, turning around requires humility, recognizing that technology and even the process of the change is awful. Recognize the limbic system, the all of that stuff that's going on, the emotional kinds of things that are helping turning around, and recognizing that it's going to take a long time to possibly correct and change. Now, sometimes it's going to be like those large freighters that takes forever to change. Sometimes it's a quick pivot with a fighter jet. But trying to find some of those ways to be able to turn things around. How do we do this? Well, being a united front. You and your spouse need to get on the same page. Next, be loving but firm. 3, make certain that your frustration is with the tech, not the kid. Explain the why. Never grow weary of the, but why, mommy? answer those questions. Match their curiosity with answers so they know they can come and talk to you about stuff. Co-create a transition plan of what does this look like from where we've been to where we are. How are we going to make this change? Get your kids involved if they're able to help with that. Remove access and accounts. For some, it's going to have to be a hard thing to say, you know what? You're 11 and you have Instagram. Just so you know, you have to be 13. You lied about your account to get it, so we're going to deactivate it until you're old enough and you're ready. There's going to be some of those things. Detox together. Some of you are also addicted to your device. Monitor for withdrawal. Join a support community, and then repeat. All right? But what if we've already given social media and those kinds of things? Well, then we need to start getting ridiculous. What do you mean by that? Being ridiculous, having ridiculously frequent talks? Just talking, asking questions. Again, this isn't you being the content expert and you're sitting them down with a spreadsheet and PowerPoint and all that kind of stuff. Just ask questions. Hey, online, have you had anybody you don't know try to chat with you lately? Or what seems to be an account that everybody seems to be following on Instagram right now? Just be curious. Be direct, be involved, observant. Some of you notice those nuances that something happened at school today. I don't quite know what it was, but I can tell something happened at school today or at a friend's house, whatever the case may be. Be engaged, be informed, and focus on it in real life. Here's what one mom did. Kind of her digital plan was writing a letter to her daughter. And she's given us permission to share this. I'll just read this first one to kind of give you the sentiment to where she's at with this. Saying, "Dear child, here's a phone and a few thoughts. You're my amazing child. I can't even express into words how important, valuable, and significant you are to me. My love for you is limitless, and now I'm putting millions of people and places into your life, which makes me nervous. Not because I don't trust you, but because I don't trust any of them. Let's take this journey together because I'd be a horrible parent if I didn't." Just a beautiful posture in having this conversation. If you want to read more about it, again, this QR code will bring you to that letter that she's given us permission to be able to share with you all. But again, it's just a beautiful way to have that conversation, recognizing that I'm not forcing myself into this because you are doing bad stuff and I don't trust you. It's the devices, the platforms, the arenas that I don't trust, and I want to make certain that I'm alongside you in this. Next is the Wi-Fi. Your router is the most used and most underappreciated device in your entire home. So, if you don't understand your router, we have wrote a guide on the Ultimate Guide to Understanding Routers. Read it, please. Most of you, your router you got from your internet service provider. You haven't even thought about how to set it up, if you even can. What we've done is we've researched a bunch of different router manufacturers, those that are usually through your internet service provider, and then also the other ones that produce kind of aftermarket. What we have found is that Griffin makes the best routers out of all of the manufacturers. Everybody who protects young eyes protects their family with a Griffin router. I can tell you right now what devices are connected to my router at home. I can turn them off individually. I can set parental controls to each of them individually. Like my sprinkler system is connected to the Wi-Fi, so I can turn it on and off. I don't need to monitor that because it doesn't have a web browser. My grill has Wi-Fi, so I can check how my brisket is doing while sitting at the beach. I don't have to go back and check it, right? Those kinds of things. So I don't have to monitor that. But this television or the video game system or whatever the case may be, those are, and I have parental control settings on each of those from the router level. But then the device level, because some of these devices have data plans or they'll go onto other different networks. And so how do you manage them when they leave for those devices? Well, what we have found is that both Gab Wireless and Bark are the premier manufacturers of tech for children. These were designed with kids in mind. When we talk about waiting for a lockdown smartphone until they're in high school, well, what do you do if your kid does get home from school before you get home from work and you don't have a landline at the house? You need to have a device there. Well, you don't have to give them and have left behind an incredible smartphone that can do all of the things. You just need them to be able to get a hold of you. Or maybe they're going to have a smartwatch, whatever the case may be. These are two manufacturers that are fantastic. Or get software that works, whether it's Covenant Eyes. Bark also has a monitoring software. That Hourglass is Screen Time, which is the parental control settings on an Apple device. That Kite is Family Link, which is the parental controls on an Android device. So think Chromebooks or Android cell phones, those kinds of things. But get them under control. Go to those things. Maybe it's what this looks like is sharing a password and having the same password with all of your adult children. Chris and his wife and their college-age daughter, same 6-digit PIN to get into any of their devices. There's nothing to hide. If you need to get a device, you can have mine, I can have yours, whatever the case may be. We're just going to use it. There's nothing to hide. Now, some of you may have sensitive information on your devices for work or maybe the way that you communicate with your spouse. You don't want your kids seeing it. I get all of that, okay? That's totally fine. But find ways to invite them into your digital life so that they know that there are no digital secrets. Device guides, again, on our website, just an example. This is just the mobile version of our site. If you go to the menu, drop-down menu at the top right, you go to resources, you go to device guides. We have how to set up parental controls on a lot of different smart devices. All right? Next, location. Where you use technology has a major impact on how you use technology. All right, this I mentioned earlier, the 5 most dangerous places for kids to be online: bedroom, bathroom, school bus, friend's house, grandparents' house. Think of these environments. How are you going to have a plan about the location of where the device is? Lastly, the app level. The reason why we have it set this way is because you have less control the higher up you go. Apps are notorious for not having controls. Some of them actually do, where you have to put in a PIN to change it, and the PIN is set by the adult on the adult's device. Most of these apps have settings, which as soon as you walk out of the room, they can just go in and undo all of it. All right, so that's why we have apps at the very top, because this is the least amount of control and protection that's available for parents. Their technology knows your kids way better than you do. Every twitch is a signal. When they're going through, Chris, our founder, learned that he had interest in honey harvesting because of TikTok. There was a woman that had a really soothing voice and would talk about how she harvested honey from her bees. And all of a sudden he found out that he was really interested in that topic, and his TikTok feed was just filled with bee honey harvesting. Just the weirdest thing is, like, I had no idea. TikTok knew me better than I knew myself. Like, I had no idea I'd be interested in this, but I found myself captivated. The same is true with any of us. Every twitch is a signal. So whether it's Minecraft or Reddit or TikTok or YouTube, Snapchat, Discord, bottom right corner if you don't know what that one is, WhatsApp, Instagram. What's that Sprocket one looking? Okay, good job. Roblox with the top. What's the bottom left? So that's Character AI. Again, that's one of those companion AI platforms. Again, if you don't know what these are, please go to our website. We have parental guides for all of those under the resources tab, and you go to app reviews, and you can scroll through that and see a bunch of stuff about the certain apps. And in those, what we end up doing is we'll kind of take and say, I think Instagram, nope, we changed it to Discord. Look at Discord. Okay, here's the App Store rating. Here's the things you need to be aware of. Here's what it's intended to do. Here's the consoles it can be on. What should you know about parental controls? All of these other different things that are going on, just so you can know and then make a wise decision for your kids. So we want them wrapped in layers and then avoiding the toxic trio. Avoiding the toxic trio. What we mean by that is bedroom, darkness, and boredom. Yes, porn is part of this, but also, how many of you have ever woken up thinking, did I really buy that on Amazon last night? And you already have 7 of them in the garage, right? Or you were up way too late watching a ball game or scrolling through Instagram, and you weren't a grown-up adult enough just to put the device down and go to sleep. So whether you're 4, 14, or 40, we tend to make better digital decisions when we avoid this toxic trio. And we won't talk a lot about it because I'm going to just point you to our blog post about the topic, but deepfakes and sextortion are major things going on at night right now. If you want to read more about that, you can. Deepfakes, again, are those things of those nudifying platforms where they're taking and creating images of children and then sharing it out as their own. Sextortion is, so deepfakes hits our daughters a little bit more. Sextortion hits our sons a little bit more. You have somebody pretending to say, hey, you show me yours, I'll show you mine. And so then they send a nude of them to somebody and they find out that it's not who they thought it was. And all of a sudden say, if you don't give us money, we're going to post this and tag you. And sadly, the numbers are way too high for young men who have committed suicide at the prime of their life because they thought there was no way out. We've actually worked with one young man. His name is Jordan DeMay. We worked with his dad because Jordan, getting ready the next day, they lived in northern Michigan. They were getting ready for a trip to Disney. And that night he sent a nude to somebody and got caught in it and thought that he sent money, it wasn't enough. And the last message he sent was, you win. And he ended his own life. And his family found him the next morning getting ready to go to Disney. So Jordan's dad, we've actually done a lot of legislative work in Washington, D.C. to raise awareness to what happened to Jordan has happened to many other young men around our country and around the world. So you want to know more about sextortion, which none of us really want to know more about sextortion, but because sextortion is a thing, and if you have sons in middle school and high school, you got to read this. You got to read this. And be more aware of what is going on, what is facing our young men, especially if they're involved in messaging. And again, this is why we say if you don't know them off the internet, you don't talk to them on the internet. All of these things start to prove themselves true as they get older in life. Last, use the 7-day rule. What do you mean by this? Before your child downloads an app on their device, especially if they're middle school or younger, before they download an app on their device, you download it on your device and you mess around with it for 7 days. Create an account that's their age and their gender. See if you even can. Again, if you have to be 13 and you have a 7-year-old and they're like, hey, sorry, you can't have this. Well, why? You have to be older. Well, all my friends have it. Well, here's the deal. You can tell all your friends have it. Tell all of their parents that their kids are on an app that they had to lie about their age to get, and you can all be miserable together when all of your parents take it away from you. Like, I don't care. You're not going to lie about yourself to get what you want online. Just because you're 11 pretending to be 15 and there's a 45-year-old pretending to be 15. And you don't know the difference because they're tricky and they're really good at what they're doing. So download it, mess around with it. And after you look at all the features and those kinds of things, like, you know what? And the reason why we say 7 days is because a lot of times you get, and what we say, turn on all of the notifications, like all of the everything. You want the full experience that the app is able to give you, and then decide, is this something that I can trust my kid with? Is it something that my kid can only have access to it? Maybe it's an hour a day or 10 minutes a day. How addicted did I get to it in 7 days? Again, part of this is controlling the app downloads, because if you don't control the app downloads, again, access to a lot of these companion, deepfake, and other AI assistants are everywhere. And the ratings range wildly right now. Some of them are 4+ and ought not be. Twitter was 4+ forever. And there's so much porn on Twitter. And so it's like the app rating system is woefully negligent. But when you look at these kinds of apps, these are the things that are coming up when you search companion AI. Do you want your 11-year-old doing this? Do you want your 8-year-old? Do you want your 17-year-old? Do you want yourself or your spouse even considering these kinds of things? Like, look at what is there and how access is given. And then parent-led device ownership. Again, any device that your child has is on loan or co-owned with you. As long as it's under your house, under your roof, even if they paid for it, they got it as a gift from grandma and grandpa, whatever they got it for, recognizing while you're under my roof, this is something we do together. We co-own. You don't have to have this. So, families that exhibit these 5 habits persistently, consistently, tend to have children who learn to use technology in good and honoring ways. We want you to be prepared, want you to be balanced, want you to be protected. So if you only have 3 takeaways from tonight, here they are. 1, commit to the calm. Okay? If that means that you have to have some of those conversations to be that safe space and apologize to your kids, saying, hey, you know what? I haven't fully understood some of this, and so I overreact in a lot of ways. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I want to show you more grace. If you can show me more grace, we're going to do this together. Some of the rules may change in the house. I want you to be involved in some of those, but know that some of the rules that are going to change, I'm going to make, and you're not going to have a say in it. And it's my responsibility as your parent to have to make some of these hard decisions. If you ask my kids, what's your dad's role in their life? It's to provide, prepare, protect. You even heard it in my bio that was read at the very beginning. Provide, prepare, protect. To provide my kids' need, to prepare them for life, and to protect them from harm. That's my job as a dad. And so anytime that I can use those 3 words in my why for how I'm parenting and the rules that I'm making, at least there's consistency. I'm too simple of a person to make it complex. I need 3 Ps. That's it. Provide, prepare, protect. I can remember those. I can enforce those. But then also get your router right. So get the relationships right, get your router right. If you do those things, I promise you're going to be making worlds of difference in the well-being of your household. And I know it's ironic at the end of this, hey, if you're on social, follow us. But we're there because you are. We want to provide resources for you, and if you're going to be on there, might as well get good stuff in your feed as well. All right? So that's there for you. If you search Protect Young Eyes on any major platform, you're probably going to find us. And as we close, we'll wrap up with kind of this benediction, this blessing on all of us from Ephesians chapter 3, verses 20 and 21. Now, to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we could ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us, to him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you so much for letting me let you drink from a fire hydrant for a little while. I will stay and answer any questions that you have. I know that we wanted to record some of those, but because of time, we're not going to be able to do that. But if you have any questions, I like to be the second to last person out of the building, followed by the one locking the door and turning on the alarm. So I'm here for you. Let me serve you as much as I can. Thank you. God bless.